Hey guys, this is Brian Shaw coming to you live from SHAWSTRENGTH here in Colorado. I made a post a couple weeks back on Facebook showing a picture of some of the food that I bought at the grocery store, and I asked you guys if there was any questions that you had specific to diet, what I do, etc. So I'm just going to cover a couple of those here with a quick video, and hopefully it'll be interesting.
Chuck W asks, do you bulk cut or do you just keep your diet consistent? And then are there any foods that you stay away from completely?
So this is actually a question that I get a lot about cutting and bulking and this sort of thing, and it's kind of a little bit more of a bodybuilding term, if you will, because they typically will cut into a contest, and then if they're in more of an off season, they would tend to bulk up. With strongman, you're not really trying to cut unless you have to make a weight for a contest, so then you'd have to cut in a little bit for that. But with, I obviously compete in an open weight class, so I can be as heavy or as light as I want to be. So I don't really ever follow a true cutting or bulking. Basically, the way that I'm training dictates what I'm going to eat. So if I'm training heavier and harder, typically I need to consume more calories to recover from that training, just because of what I'm putting my body through with training. So I'm not really ever, I don't ever go into my diet trying to say, hey, I need to gain a bunch of weight or I need to lose a bunch of weight. It's more that I address it based on how I'm training. So if I'm training and I'm feeling good with training, then we're typically hitting the nail on the head. And if I'm not recovering from training, or I feel like, I'm beat up all the time, typically I need to add more calories. And then as far as a food that I stay away from, basically, I don't eat or drink any type of milk products. Typically, that's weird because earlier in my career, I definitely I was drinking up to a gallon of milk a day, following that kind of a diet. And I don't handle milk very well. For me, I feel like it causes a lot of inflammation in my body, and I just don't do very well with that. So I typically will stay away from that. That's one thing I do stay away from.
Eric J are wondering how much eating like you eat can cost.
Well, it's also a good question, because consuming a lot of food, especially when you're eating healthy food, can be very, very expensive, really. I do spend a lot of money, at the grocery store, and it really, meat and protein is the most expensive part of that. So, based on the type of protein that I'm eating, I eat a lot of grass-fed beef, for example, and that can be anywhere, $7 a pound, sometimes even a little bit more than that, depending on where you're going to buy it at. And I'll go up to, on a daily basis, sometimes I'll eat 4 pounds or more of grass-fed beef. So, if it's $7 a pound, that's almost $30 a day just for the beef that I eat. So it can add up, very quickly, in that regard as well. So, I don't track it specifically, how much money am I putting out? Maybe I should, be a little bit more specific, but I would say on a daily basis, if the meat's going to be in that range, $30, maybe a little bit more, you probably get up to around 40, something around that range, $40 a day. So you could, definitely do the math on that, and add that up. But it's, it's very expensive. It definitely can be very expensive.
We have quite a few vegans, and a gentleman named Kenny C, who's wondering, how do you get the amount of protein that you need if you only eat fish or only eat vegetables?
Well, it's tough. If you're a vegan or you're trying to follow a diet where you would only eat fish and you're staying away from any other type of protein, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be very difficult to get the kind of protein that you need. I do eat a lot of fish. So it's basically some types of white fish or more salmon. And those are great sources of protein. I really like salmon a lot. So, I would consume a lot of that if I was going to do that. I personally wouldn't very much recommend that, to only go with fish and vegetables. You're going to have a hard time with that, unless that's something you're really after, then, that's it. If you make that choice and you follow that type of diet, then you're going to have a hard time. But it's, if you want to do it and it's something that you're dedicated to, then go for it, and, you're just going to have to deal with, what that brings and the challenge that goes along with it.
We got a question here about caffeine. Cody S. is wondering, do you drink caffeinated drinks? And what are your thoughts on caffeines? What about caffeine in supplements?
Sure. So, caffeine is obviously it's a stimulant. So the more of it that you drink throughout the day, the more desensitized you're going to become to it. And I think anybody that's had a lot of coffee or, drink a lot of pre-workout drinks, for example, that has a lot of caffeine, like typically you're going to adapt to that really quickly. So what I try to do as far as caffeine goes, I really like to have, I will drink, depending on the day, like some type of pre-workout before the training, and I like it to work well. So I try to stay away from caffeine during the day. For the most part, I do drink coffee occasionally. If I'm, in the morning, I need some kind of, kickstart, or, if I'm kind of dragging a little bit, I would add in some type of coffee in the morning, and then maybe caffeine, pre-training if I need it. If I don't need it, I don't drink anything. So it's just it really depends. Like I try not to become dependent on it. And I think that a lot of people overdo. Caffeine's probably one of the most overdone stimulants, of anything out there. Like it's just crazy, like overused. And the more of it that you take all the time, the less, sensitive you're going to become to that. So I would recommend only using it when you need it. Other than that, probably try to stay away from it as much as you can and just drink water, really. I mean, I know that's kind of a simple, boring thing, but your body needs a lot of water. So, try to drink that as much as you can and stay away from stuff that has a lot of caffeine unless you really need some kind of pick-me-up, and only use it when you need it.
We got tons of questions about calories. We got tons of questions about how much protein. We got questions about macros and micros. Can you give people a quick breakdown on, if they're trying to get bigger and stronger, about how they could break down their protein versus carbs?
So, calories and macros and all of this, like it's a very, like it could be a very drawn out, conversation, basically, like what you're trying to do. And, everybody's body is individual, and how you respond to, certain calories. Certain people are going to be a little bit more sensitive to carbs, for example.
Conrad V asks, Brian, how many calories do you eat a day? And do you have a preferable choice of protein?
So this is a good question. I get it a lot about how many calories am I eating, and what foods am I consuming? What type of protein am I eating? Like they're really, for me, as far as how many calories am I eating, it's very dependent on my training at that point in time. So as I train harder and heavier, I typically will have to bump my calories up in order to recover from my training. So there's not a set amount of calories that I'm always eating. It really depends on the training. So I would say that typical range, just to give you a range, I would say on the lower end would be somewhere around 6,000 calories a day, give or take. Especially if I'm eating a lot cleaner, like my calories will go down a lot more. As I'm training heavier and harder, like the calories will go up. So I would get closer to like 9,000 or 10,000 in a day. That would be a lot. Like as I'm getting ready for, something like the Arnold Classic that's very heavy, and hard, then I would have to eat more calories to deal with that training. So, it really depends. As far as protein, I get that question a lot too. My preferred source of protein really will come from grass-fed beef. I eat a lot of ground grass-fed beef. I feel like that's a great source of protein. I also vary that around, so I'll include, some chicken at some points in time, some fish, whitefish or salmon at some points in time. We'll also include turkey. So I really try to get my protein from a variety of different sources. On top of that, I will also include protein shakes. Because sometimes it's much easier to drink the protein than it is to chew it all the time. So I'll do as much as I can from whole foods. Definitely the supplements, protein supplements are important. And as far as a range on protein, I would say, somewhere, for me, I'm at the very minimum, I would say like a gram per pound of body weight. So for me, that's going to be, a little bit over 400 grams of protein a day. I really like to try to push closer to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. So about 600 grams of protein a day, which sounds like a lot, but, when you're eating, 6 to 8 meals a day and, getting in some shakes, like it really adds up quickly. So, it's a job, really. Eating is a job, and that's the way that I approach it. And, if I'm not eating enough and I'm not eating the right foods, I'm not going to recover from training. So, it's very important to me, and getting in enough calories is very important, and it's part of, what I do every single day.
You've got a bunch of hunters who are your fans out there.
Okay.
And JD would like to know, do you ever include venison for a super lean protein choice?
So I think venison is great. I have at times I've had friends that have hunted, and my dad, when I was growing up, used to hunt a lot, and we'd eat a lot of elk. So I think it's great. I think it's a great protein choice, and I think that it's not bad. I mean, I know a lot of people also, and myself included, include bison, because that's another good lean protein, that's leaner than beef is. So at times, like, I think there's a time and a place for every type of protein. If you're a big hunter and you somebody that hunts a lot and you can get a lot of venison, like, I would do it for sure. I think that it's a great protein choice. I think that, for me, like, I really, like I said, try to spread the protein, sources around. So I wouldn't eat all beef in one day. I wouldn't eat all chicken in one day. I wouldn't eat all fish in one day. Like, I really try to get protein from different sources in the same day. So, it's definitely something where, you're going to need to try to get the protein from a lot of different sources. So if you have access to venison, use it. I would, maybe add that in, throw some beef in, throw some chicken in, throw some fish in, and that'll be a good combination of protein sources. Definitely use protein shakes, but try to get as much of your protein from real foods as you possibly can. I think it'll be better for your body to have a variety of different protein sources. Hopefully, answering a few of these questions. I know there's a lot more questions. We're actually going to be doing some more videos on food, how I eat, food preparation, different things like that. So hopefully we'll be able to cover, if your question didn't get covered, hopefully we'll be able to cover that. Definitely add your comments below the video and let us know if there's something else you want me to talk about, want me to cover, something you've been wondering about, and that'll give us some direction and let us know like what direction we should go with these videos. So hope you enjoy this, guys, and we'll definitely be getting you some more content soon.